This is the Swarm and Shoot football show with me, Louie Matsakis, the head football coach at Defiance College. We feature Defiance College football and everything that influences our program. This show is brought to you by our friends at Big B Coffee right across campus on North Clinton Street. I'm actually having a cup right now, so everybody check it out on YouTube, and you can see the video of the cup and how delicious this beverage is. Get the finest coffee beverages, even tea, in Defiance, as well as great pastries, breakfast sandwiches to start your day off, and you can even get a pick-me-up like a lot of our coaching staff does in the afternoon. I'd also like to bring on board the maker of this fine apparel right here, and not just Nike, but we're talking about BSN Sports, all right? I'd like to bring on board our latest sponsor, BSN Sports, and Rob Held and his sales team are the professionals you need to get in touch with for all your sporting goods and apparel needs in Ohio. Not only do they work with high school and college sports teams, they also deliver outstanding apparel to businesses so they can brand themselves in a first-class manner. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to unveil your campus during the pandemic in a unique way. And my guest on this episode is Coach Shank, recruiting coordinator here at Defiance College. How's it going, Chris?
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. So, what do you think? All this pandemic is certainly changing recruiting today more than anything I've ever seen.
It has, but it's made people, think outside the box and get a little bit more creative with how they present their campus, how they present their program. And I think some programs and some colleges are doing a great job at it, and some aren't. And I think with the technology and the guys that we have, with the ideas that we have, I think that's really going to benefit Defiance into the future. And even being able to take some of the ideas that we've come up with, and when things start to open back up, you can have on-campus visits, just being able to incorporate some of those aspects and some of those features. I mean, it's going to be big moving forward, even just of what we've developed. So,
well, a certain opportunity. I mean, I think it's how you respond to these situations dictates where you're going to be in the future. And here's what's happening right now. I mean, I remember when all this stuff would hit, and then you'd hear about, we're doing a virtual visit, we're doing these different things. I remember Les Miles and the Kansas Jayhawks had like an all-day affair. Yeah. It was like get on Zoom and let me talk to you, and that was how they and a lot of colleges were doing that or have been doing that. And that was interesting to see that and other ways people are responding to this, because recruiting is the lifeblood of every program.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what have you noticed out there?
I've noticed, a lot of schools are doing the virtual visits or virtual junior days or virtual whatever. I think the way we were able to do it and the way we piece things together, and it didn't even really stem from the pandemic. It stemmed from, I remember we had a couple guys that were signed up for our March 20th weekend visit, and they couldn't come because they're, Texas, California, whatever, and they asked about a virtual visit. Yeah, well, we'll think about that. Then all of a sudden the pandemic started hitting, and that's a pretty good idea,
I mean,
but with like those virtual visits that guys do, like, hey, you log on to Zoom or Google Meet, whatever, those are great. And you get a chance to sit there and talk and whatever to your coach, but I'd like to think you've already been talking to your recruiting coach, and
exactly.
And so, like, the way we've done this is it allows the recruits, it allows the parents to sit down at whatever day, whatever hour they want to do it, and they can do it in one sitting. They can do it in 10 sittings. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
And that's a good point. I have heard that, hey, Defiance College and what we're doing with our virtual visit is totally different than everybody else, and we stand alone. And here's what has been said out there. You do. Now, you actually have been privy to what we do here at Defiance College. And you went through it, and our virtual visit. How does that look to you? What would be your insights on what we're doing here?
Oh, I think it's cutting edge. I wouldn't think anybody. I'd be shocked if anybody at our level was doing something like that, let alone small college. I think it's a great way to reach the masses, reach a lot of recruits, getting your brand out, getting your name out, getting what you have to sell in a small college, the people, getting, just understanding academically, athletically, socially, what there's to offer in Defiance. And it was just a unique way to get it done.
All right, now let's take a look at how we got here. The pandemic hits. It's after spring break, right? It was just happening at this point. You and I are sitting around and, we can't go on the road, they said. That was it. All recruiting had to be done by phone. We were at least allowed to do that. Yeah. We had our biggest recruiting weekend coming up. We had 54 prospects from 7 states.
Yeah.
I can remember that. At that point, we had 119 prospects come onto campus.
Yes.
That's where we were sitting. And we were doing great. Oh, I mean, you look at everything was starting to trend well, everything was going, then it all stopped. Boom. Just like that. Yeah. So then I remember the day.
I mean, it was great because we got great reception and great feedback on all of our overnight visits, all of our weekend visits, and how do we extend this to more people? And we understand the people in those flyaway states, something may come up and they got to cancel or whatever. Like, well, how do we get them the information? How do we show what's going on here? And it all kind of came together.
Well, it did, because that one day, I think it was at the end of spring break. We were up here in the office working, and I walk into your office, I go, hey, I got an idea. That's not the first time you heard that.
No.
And then
daily occurrence.
Yeah, and we sit there and I go, hey, let's do a virtual visit. Okay, well, not just some type of a video, but a real online official visit. And we started bantering back and forth as we always do. And we start to brainstorm a little bit. And they say, we could create this like an e-course, something that we can promote to prospects and their parents. And if nobody can come on campus, see, the big thing for us is when they come on campus, they get this Discover Defiance grant of $1,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So it's worth them making the trip here, right? I mean, give everybody an idea of where we're located in Northwest Ohio near Bowling Green and Detroit up here. I mean, how many states are represented total on our team here?
On our team right now, we're probably around 13, 14 states right now. Now, if you start counting the guys that have deposited, we're probably up maybe around 15, 16 states right now currently, if you count everybody in there. Yeah.
And for us in Ohio, which is a tremendous state for college football and high school as well, what happens is the sheer competition for those players in state is very high.
Yeah, you're talking about the Ohio high school players.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tremendous. You got to think that there's 20 plus Division III, right around 20 Division III schools that play college football in the state of Ohio, and that's not counting your schools that are right across the border in Indiana or right across the border in Michigan that they'd be dumb not to recruit at least close to the border or just over the border. So you got a lot of schools you're competing with.
Yeah, and that's why we've had to get the best players we could get in state, but we reach far. I mean, it is not uncommon sitting where we are for people people fly in, I get it, but there are people that have driven here from Texas.
Yeah, we had a young man and his mom drive 19 hours from Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah.
Got here at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday, left at about noon the next day, thought it was the greatest visit they've ever seen. And I just remember the young man, he contacted me and said on Friday, hey, Coach, we may be a little bit late. We hit a traffic jam in Louisiana. I said, all right. No problem, man. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so that's what's happening. We get him from Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, all over. I mean, there's something special.
Yeah. I mean, we have 3 deposits from California right now.
There you go. Now those kids all flew out though, right? Do we have one drive?
No, they all did the virtual visit. They didn't even none of them. They were all set up to come in either a March or April visit.
Now, we're leading everybody, all these coaches out there into this virtual visit. Okay, that's interesting. You know what happened was when we started to develop this, our administration agreed that if we made this a quality experience, which you'll see, that we would be able to offer that Discover Defiance grant. Right? So there's $4,000 to sit down in about an hour or so to complete this, right? And we had to have a way to find out completion, which we'll get into that in a second. Now, we had no blueprint whatsoever. Now, all we saw was here's a video of the camp. Here's this all these different videos people were doing out there, and the Zoom calls, which we saw the limitations of a lot of that was it didn't seem very personal when you were looking at the videos, and the Zoom call, it was personal, but you couldn't recruit a large enough group of people because it was you one-on-one or with a group.
And they had to have the right time. I mean, you know,
a lot
young men may have other, so he may have other things going on, maybe another virtual visit with another school or something like that. Now you're competing for their half an hour time here.
So here's what happens. So everybody can get a good understanding what we had to develop here. All I said was, hey, Chris, you get with Matt Warehan. Matt is our assistant recruiting coordinator, linebacker coach. And I said, what I want you to do is take a look at our typical overnight visit. So you all pulled out the itineraries, what it was, and see what we delivered to prospects. What were we putting out for them that they liked? And you guys started to get all the key insights of what was so great about these overnight visits. Because when guys were coming overnight, we were getting tremendous conversion on the overnight. And what made those so successful? So you did that, right? And then you all created a storyboard and said, let's take a look at this, right? So walk me through that process of, all right, coach says, I've got to, let's look at the itinerary. Yeah. How do we get from that up to the initial storyboard?
Well, we took everything we did in the official visits and in the weekend visits, and we broke it down into 3 different sections. You're kind of welcome. Hey, this is what this is about. This is what you're going to get out of it. Just kind of hitting some bullet points. You're going to hear from some different people. And then we will transition into your academic part side of things, your campus life, the town of Defiance. And then the third part was the athletic. And what we try to do is really look and see what were the pieces, just getting feedback from our previous visits, what were our most popular or maybe things that people really gravitated to or really, really enjoyed. And so we have like a 15-minute presentation in there from Kirsty Mack and the Defiance Visitors Bureau, because she always came to speak with us at our official visits to present to the parents, and did the same thing with it. And we got some slides and pictures. It's great. The one thing that I wish we could have done, and it's just if we could have gotten the students back for a couple days right after spring break, we would have been able to do like our player panel and all that stuff. Now, on the flip side, our players have done a tremendous job in recruiting, because whenever any of these recruits retweet me, and I tag and retweet, I'm committed or on deposit or whatever the case may be, our players are all over it, and they make comments and friend, follow, whatever these guys. So we kind of got to it in an indirect way, but yeah. So
that helped. I mean, you look at that, and you guys created a storyboard. We worked through it all, and then we said, okay, now we're in this pandemic. We're going to create this. We did it in a week, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And Matt was up all night. We were doing all types of things, because what we were fortunate to have, that a lot of people, like I've gotten calls from major programs, all the way to small colleges. Say, hey, I want to take a look at what it is you do because they all want to replicate it. Yeah. And a couple I looked at it was like, oh, well, we can't do that. Yeah. Well, one of the reasons is that we had been recording video of our official visits. So when I would do the introduction, I was mic'd up, it was recording. Each part of this, a lot of parts of this were recorded in good quality. Yeah. Right. So we had something. We didn't have it all, but we had at least the bones of this thing. And Matt started to edit it, put it together, and we had some good footage to start out on our hard drives from what we had done before. And then we found a software solution out there that would guarantee, and this I thought was cool, where you couldn't move on to the next segment unless you watched 80-90% of the video. So we knew they were watching the video, and then they could move on to their next module, like an e-course. Right. And then ultimately it took them through the pipeline, and they would get a certificate of completion, which was good for the Discover Defiance grant. Right?
Yeah. That and they'd fill out a survey too, which the survey was good for two reasons. We knew they did it so we could get them the Discover Defiance grant, but then we also put on for feedback, any notes or what would you like to hear more of, and stuff like that. And so as we move forward, and create one in the future and stuff like that, now we know what we need to add or whatever the case might be. Yeah.
Well, and what happened was we had to fill in the gaps because we didn't have everything. Some things like, I think you're right, the Kirsty Mack presentation, all we had was the audio. The video looked like crap, right? I mean, excuse my French, but it just didn't look very good. So we did have a presentation, so we did audio overdub on that one and other things like that. And so it helped to have the presentations. Some of the other stuff, we had Tracy Ford do hers, I think with her iPhone. Right? I
think so.
Or webcam or something. Yeah. So we had coaches and different people, whatever we wanted to fill in. And you'll see in a minute, I'll take you through what this thing has in it. And we created more video to insert that we thought would make this a tremendous virtual visit online, something that would rival an official visit. And here's an outline of what we put into that thing. We start off, like you said, with a welcome. I do an introduction. I think it's in my office. I sit there and, sit on the couch, talk through it. Hey, welcome, and you all can check this out here later. We have a link that you can go to see this. And then we do something about, why Defiance College? What is so great about this place? And then we do a section on meeting the staff. So we go through all that, boom. So all this stuff is videos and graphics, etc. So that's phase one, welcome. Then it goes to Defiance College and Defiance, the area, everything around it that happened to be there. And, we hit on admissions, academics, campus tour, financial aid, and then what you had alluded to before was discovering our town. Yep. That presentation that was done there. And each of these segments are not like 30, 40-minute sections. I mean, these are like bites of information edited properly to give them what they want. And then, as we know, academics come first, but then football is the sell on the back end of this in recruiting, because kids want to come here and play football. So then we get into a section on Yellow Jacket football, where we had an offensive presentation, right? Yep. Then a defensive one with Coach Johnson. And then we had position meetings. Tell me about how those went, how we set that up.
So normally on an official visit, on a weekend visit, when we would have the parents sit in, right after the OD presentations, we would have separate the parents and the recruits. And the parents would go to a player panel, and they get to ask fire questions that are players, no coaches in there, just complete transparency about what goes on in the program, on campus, and everything. And then the prospects, they would go and they would break up with their position coach for about 20, 30 minutes and just sit there and talk, and we were kind of loose. Some coaches got some film on there. Some coaches talked to them a little bit more about their background, get to know their recruits a little bit, just kind of playing into, hey, this is potentially the guy I'm going to be playing for the next 4 years in my college career. I want to get to know him and who he is. And so we were able to take that. Now, it wasn't a 20 to 30-minute presentation on the visit, because I wouldn't want to sit there on a video and watch myself talk for 20 to 30 minutes. But it was still, hey, listen, glad you're taking this visit. This is what I believe. Myself, I talked about my philosophy, a little bit about where I've been, how I coach, how I teach, maybe my style of coaching, just so they could at least encompass all this information and realize, okay, this is a guy I want to play for, maybe not,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And go from there. Not too heavy into X's and O's, but hey.
But enough where they got it, and each guy had his own feature, so a prospect could go through and he can find out, hey, I'm an offensive lineman, I want to hear about this. I'm a quarterback, I want to hear about this. And we're able to get through some really good information, and then when they finished their position meeting online, then the next segment was about facilities. So we took them through, showed them all the facilities. That we had to add some new video, and Matt went out and about, shot that, and then they completed their certification.
Yeah.
Now here's where the rubber meets the road. Let's take a look at the results of this project to date, the Virtual Visit Project, what it's been able to do to date. And this is 1st of May. Right? Yeah. And in 2019, we had total number of in-person visits was 160. Okay? So that's what we're gauging this. And now we've been hit with this pandemic and all this stuff happened. And in 2020, we had regular in-person visits of 119 when all this hit. And virtually, we added 194. These are the guys that could come here this fall in 2020. So totaling 313 visits. 313, almost double the 160 that we had a year ago because of the virtual setup we had with these visits. So you look at this and you think, wow. I mean, that's huge. My goodness. And there's so many benefits to this. Don't you see?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, I mean, you could look at it. I mean, it's a benefit for a guy that, okay, it helped us out during a crisis, during the national pandemic. It's going to help us out in the future when we can have on-campus visits to, guys that live in those flyaway states, one of those 20 states we may have on the roster in a couple years. Like, do I really want to go out there and fly out to Defiance College to visit and spend the time and money to get out there? Well, I'm going to watch this hour, and I'm going to sit down for an hour and a half and go through this visit. Wow, I really want to see this place in person. And that's a little bit, because, I'm excited that, things are starting to open up a little bit, because we do have several, very good football players that have gone through this virtual visit, and that, Coach, I just need to, and I've talked to their parents, Coach, I just want to come up and see campus before I make the final decision, but we love everything. And, possibly going to be able to get to that point, hopefully. And I mean, it's a way to connect and a way to get things out there, to more people, convey your message a little bit more.
So that, as powerful as that is, and I have to commend you, our coaches, for the recruiting job we've been able to do in and out of the whole pandemic situation. But this is what I think is even more powerful. You would think there, and you see it out there. Everyone's like trying to do their best, and they're giving you a little bit of this and that, and then what I hate this. It's like people making excuses. Oh, well, because of the pandemic, the new normal is, and we're not going to be able to get as many players. We're not going to be able to do all. There's all these excuses and alibis, whatever you want to call them. And what I think is, here is the magic number. All right, the magic number, believe it or not, is 281. It's 281 juniors in our 2021 class that have already gone through this. Right? A year ago, we didn't have any juniors on campus.
No.
So we're 281 ahead, and these guys are engaged. We have our own podcast that we do, that Swarm and Shoot football show. We've got all this stuff that we create for them, and they're excited about us right now.
Yeah, all fired up. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're becoming, and a friend of mine on the East Coast said, he goes, you guys are becoming the most interesting football program in the country right now. Yeah. So the key is winning.
Yeah.
And I think as you cast that big enough net with how we have to do this, I think every program in the country has their own way where they can win. They all have a way of doing it. You could be in a football hotbed, you may not be, you might be by the beach, you might be in the mountains. Whatever it is, we all have something to sell, and we have to be creative in the way we're doing that. Yeah. And I certainly believe that having 281 juniors already fired up, and every week, I mean, if somebody out there, I mean, a lot of you coaches and stuff out there on Twitter, just follow us at DCFB, right?
Yeah.
On Twitter, and you'll see how many kids are taking these virtual visits. And I don't want to name names, but how many coaches have called me, have texted me, hey, I want to see this, because it's different than, hey, this is what Eastern Michigan does. This is what this MAC school does. This is what every small college, it's totally different. And I think the beauty of this is going to be that for football coaches, or what we're going to call non-prospects, all right, we're going to have a link that you can go to, all right here on the website, on MannyMatsakis.com. And with this Inside Access episode, you'll have the link for you. And hey, look, this is like a shameless plug. If you know guys that are good prospects that want to check out Defiance College, there's another link there for prospects. So we have one for coaches and one for the prospects. And shoot, I'll tell you, these numbers are going to go through the roof, don't you think?
I mean, Coach, I think another, you mentioned it, people and coaches around the country, it's easy for them to make an excuse, whatever, sport, admissions office, whatever, about not hitting numbers and stuff like that. I think a telling number for us and our staff and what we've been able to do here is the fact that last year at this point, on May 1st of 2019, we had 27 deposits as a football program. Okay. This year on May 1st, 2020, we have 38. We're still not quite where we need to be. Yeah. But we're getting there, and I mean, it's hard to say that, it's hard not to say that this thing helped. Yeah. It's
exactly, and that's a case study for Defiance College. Now, other colleges are out there, and they're looking at what we're doing, and hey, we're sharing the information with them. Mm-hmm. But you already know we're up to we're working on 2.0 of this right now. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're coming up with stuff that I guess somebody would have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. We're not going to show what it is we're about to create. I mean, this is like I don't even want to go there. I'm fired up about it. It gives us this opportunity to sell a place that's near and dear to our heart. Mm-hmm. Defiance College has a proud tradition that we are in the midst of rekindling right now, bringing it back. And it's a great place to play football. But there's so many guys that right now, like you said, that would have never seen this.
Have no idea where Defiance is, what it, so it's...
Yeah. That's amazing.
Gives you a chance, Gives you a chance to get them on the hook.
Thank you for joining us on this latest episode of the Swarm and Shoot Football Show. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe in iTunes, give us a rating, comment on the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell in the top corner there so you can get notifications when we release the next show. Feel free to comment below on a specific show, and we'll answer those questions as we need to. If you'd like to step up to the next level and get all kinds of updates, go to our website, swarmandshoot.com, where you'll get up-to-date alerts on all of our podcasts. You'll have the audio on there. There's actually a video player where you can scroll through each and every episode that we have of the podcast from the YouTube version, so you never really have to leave the site. You'll also see some features on various players, our coaching staff bios, all types of things going on in our program, when our golf scramble is, different fundraisers we do, just insights for you that take you to that next level, which is what swarmandshoot.com will do for you. Take a minute and subscribe with your email. When you log on, there'll actually probably be a pop-up about 6 seconds into it, and it gives you a chance to go in, and that will put you into our email database. So every time we update, you get an email knowing that we're basically set to go on the next episode of the podcast or any news that's coming out. Appreciate you supporting the program, and look forward to a wonderful season.